Hi, welcome to my video on a graph of polynomial from the general equation. And the equation I'm talking about is equal to y. We're going to graph this equation. Y equals negative x cubed plus 6x squared minus 3x minus 10. So in order to graph this equation, I'm going to find the what we call the roots or the x-intercepts, and then express it in factoring form and then graph it from there. Here we go. And again, you can pause the video if you wish and try to do this question first. But now, we're going to show the x and y intercept. So let's do the y-intercept first. The y-intercept is when you let x equal 0. So y equals negative 0 squared cubed plus 6 0 squared minus 3 0 minus 10. So y equals, that's a 0, that's a 0, and that's a 0, and that's a minus 10. So the y-intercept when x is 0, y is negative 10. So when x is 0, y is negative 10, so the y-intercept is right there. Okay. Now, let's find the x-intercepts. So what we're going to do now is let y equals 0. So we get a negative x cubed plus 6x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. So as I said, I'm going to write this in factored form. So I'm going to take the negative out to have x cubed minus 6x squared plus 3x plus 10. So removing your negative, that makes the leading term positive. So I'm going to find the roots and then write this in factored form. So what we have, we're going to solve this equation right here, and we have, noticed we have it in descending order, and we have it equal to 0. And we have, notice I have 3 roots. The power of x is 3. Now, we will check to see if we have any x is a GCF. Nope. Do the coefficients add up to 1? No. 1 is not a root because the coefficients, do the coefficients add up to 0? No. 13, 14, negative 6? Nope. And can we do grouping? Nope. We can't take anything out of this. So an x squared comes out of here to give me x minus 6. And this is not going to be an x minus 6 here. So we have to look for the possible roots. So p and q. P is 10. Q is 1. And when that happens, then the factors of 10 are plus minus 1, 2, 5, and 10. Factors of 1 are plus minus 1. So that means the P over Q is plus minus 1, 2, 5, and 10. Because we're dividing by 1, then this is an integral, integers. So this is the possible roots. And we'll do the plus minus and the imaginaries just to make sure. And right here, this equation, and never mind the minus here, we got 1 change, 2 changes, and this is not changed, so we got 2 pluses or 0. We got 2 or 0 positives. And if we make this, I'm just not worrying about that minus, just looking at this. Put a negative here, I get a negative. Put a negative here, I get a negative. Put a negative here, I get a negative, and plus 10. So we get 1 positive. Sorry, we got 2 or 0 positives. I did the negative then, so we got 1 negative for each case. So there's no imaginaries. And the total is 3. We got no positives, 1 negative. We got 2 imaginaries. Total is 3. So we have 1 negative root for sure. So we have a negative root. let's try a -1. Go down through them. So we have, again, 1, -6, 3, 10. Draw a line, bring down your 1, multiply, -1 gives you -7 when you add, multiply gives you 7, add gives you 10, multiply gives you -10, the remainder is 0, so that means -1 is a root, and that means that x plus 1 is a factor. Now we look at the depressed equation, x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. And hopefully we can factor this, because if we're going to graph it, they got to be real roots. Normally they're not. If you're going to graph, they're normally integral roots. So x squared is x and x. Factors of 10 to give you 7 are 5 and 2. The product is positive, sum is negative, so -5, -2. Now, these are the factors. So I can say, if I want right away, that the roots are 5 and 2. But as a factored form, because I have x here, so I got y, that's the negative. And this is factors -1, so that's an x plus 1. This factors x minus 5, x minus 2. So when I say these are roots, they're also the intercepts, because the roots of the equation equals 0 are also the x-intercepts of a graph. So we have x-intercepts are at -1, at 2 and 5. There they are. And because it's negative, notice it's negative, from the furthest x-intercept on the right, which is 5, so because it's negative, we go down from here, like this. So when we come up from like this, we go down to the next intercept, because remember they're all linear, so you're going to pass on through. You keep coming down, down, go on down, and it has to bend and come up through here, and then it got to go up through. Remember, they're all linear, so they're passing on through. A line going through 5, a line going through 2, and a line going through -1. And so that's the cubic graph. And I did it in the factored form to show you, because we graphed in factored form before when we started the unit. And we have another one to do, so pause your video if you wish and see if you can graph this one. So again, I'll start off by, we have, let's see, we want to let x equals 0, so y equals 0 to the 4th minus 7, 0 squared minus 6, 0. That's a 0. 0 squared is 0 times -7 is a 0. And -6 times 0 is 0. So when x is 0, y is 0. So that means the x and the y intercept are at 0. They're the same at the origin. Now we need to we're going to let y equal 0. When we let y equal 0, the equation becomes x to the 4th minus 7x squared minus 6x equals 0. Letting y equal 0, we'll find out the x-intercepts, which are the roots of the equation. So the first, and we have in this equation, we have, notice, we have 4 roots. But if I take the x out, because it's common, I get an x cubed minus 7x minus 6 equals 0. So we got x equals 0, and which is true, because when x is 0, y is 0. Now I have to look at the equation x cubed minus 7x minus 6 equals 0. And in this equation, I have highest power is 3, so I have 3 roots as a cubic. And notice the coefficients don't add up to 0. We already took the x out, so there's no common variable here. And we can't do any grouping, so we have to look at the possible. So let's look at the possible roots. So P and Q again. P is negative 6 and Q is 1. So that's plus minus 1, 2, 3, and 6. And Q is 1, so it's plus minus 1. So the P over the Q is plus minus 1, 2, 3, 6. And dividing by 1, not going to change those. So you could put division by 1, but it's what you have, because that's a 1 we have integral coefficients. That'd be integral roots. Okay, we're going to look at this equation. And this equation, let's see, we have positive and negative. And so we only have, in terms of positive roots, we only have 1. So if we look at the plus, minus, imaginaries, and total, we got 1 positive. So let's put a negative in now. So we put a negative in. We put a negative in here. Negative x cubed is negative. Negative 7 times negative x is plus, and we have a negative. So in terms of a negative, this changes and this changes, so we have 2 negatives. So we have 1 positive, 2 negatives, or no negatives. So we can have 1 positive. If we got 2 negatives, we can have a 2 or 0. So if we got 1 positive, we can have 2 or 0 negatives. So if we got 1 positive and 2 negatives, we got no imaginary because there's 3 roots. If we got 1 positive and no negative, we got 2 imaginaries, we still got 3 roots. So we're looking to see, we know we have 1 positive root. So let's try a 2. 2 is the 1 doesn't work. So let's remember we're trying the positive. So 1 didn't work because the coefficient doesn't add up to 0. So let's try 2 on this equation. So that's a cube, 1. Notice there's no x squared, and there's a negative 7 and a negative 6. When you do synthetic division, you have to make sure that you fill in the equation. Remember, the equation is x cubed plus 0x squared minus 7x minus 6 equals 0. So when you do synthetic division, you have to fill in that 0. Bring down your 1. Multiply, you get a 2. Add, you get a 2. That's a 4. Add, you get negative 3. Multiply, you get negative 6. And 12 is the remainder. So therefore, 2 is not a root. Now we'll try 3. 1 didn't work. 2 didn't work. We got to keep trying. So we'll go with a 1, 0, negative 7, negative 6. The same equation that we have here. So we'll go bring down the 1, multiply, we get a 3, add, we get a 0. Multiply, we get a 0. And just to make sure here, multiply, you get a 3, add, you get a 3. Now what? Where's my brain gone? So add, you get a 3, multiply, you get a 9. And so add, you get a 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Add, you get a 0. We get a 0 remainder. That means 3 is a root. That means x minus 3 is a factor. So we have x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. And this is a quadratic, so we factor x and x. Factors of 2 are only 2 and 1. Product is positive, sum is positive, so it should be 2 positives. Multiply. 2 times 1 is 2, add 3. So that means we have factors, so that means we have x equals negative 2 or x equals negative 1. Those are the factors, and those are the intercepts or the roots. So we have an x, so if we take the equation, we have an x taken out at the beginning. We have this factor, because this is a root, it's also a factor of x minus 3. Notice the factor is x plus 2, x plus 1. And so we plot these intercepts now. The intercepts are 0, 3, right there, -2, -1. Remember, the roots, the factors, the roots or intercepts are opposite of these factors. And notice it's plus, so it comes down through, it goes up here because it's positive. So what it means is that any value of x that you put in here to the right of 3, you'll always have a y is positive. So coming down through here. And the y-intercept is 0, 0, so it comes down, bends, goes back up. Notice these are all linears. Goes up, and now it's got to come back down through the -1. It goes on through and turns and goes back up. So there's the graph, and we found it by getting the roots of the equations equal to 0, which are the y-intercepts of the graph. Okay, let's do another one. And again, the more you do, the better you get. We did all this solving just to get to this one of the steps in graphing this general form. So we have this equation, and I'm going to let x equals 0 to get the y-intercepts. So y equals, I'm putting a 0 in the place of x. And what you have when you put 0 in the place of x, and I'm just showing you this, but really, all the terms become 0. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, -4, except the constant on the end. So that's a -4. So when I put 0 in here, I'm showing you this, but if you put 0 in the place of x, every term that has an x becomes 0. So y is -4, if you want to do it quick. X is 0, y is -4. X is 0, y is -4. There's the y-intercept right there. Now we're going to let y equal 0. So if you let y equal 0, you're going to get the x-intercepts. So you get x to the 5 plus x to the 4, x cubed, x squared negative plus 8x minus 4. So we let y equal 0, we're going to get the x-intercepts. And so we have, notice we have 5 roots, because it's power of 5. So we have 5 roots. And we have it in descending order, perfect. So there's no x common. So check to see if the 1, add up the coefficients. 4, -5, -10. 8, 1 and 1 is 10. So you got 10 and -10, so 1 is a root. So 1 is a root, put down your 1 and do synthetic division. Is it in descending order? Yes. So we got a 1, 1, -5, -1, 8, -4. So because the coefficients adds up to 0, I know 1 is going to be a root. Bring down your 1, multiply. 1, add. 2, multiply. 2, add, -3, multiply. -3, add, -4, multiply. -4, add, 4, multiply. 4. And I knew I was going to get a remainder of 0, so 1 is a root. Now, let's check again. So 4 plus 1 is 7, -3, -4. Again, 1 is a root. So a depressed equation is, we're going to work on 1, 2, x cubed, 1, 2, -3, -4, and 4. This is the 5th power. So this one is x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, x constant. So again, because they add up, 1, 0 is going to be a remainder here. Bring down your 1, multiply. 1, add, 3, multiply. 3, add, 0, multiply, 0, add, -4, multiply, -4. Again, 0 is a remainder. So right here we got a factor of x minus 1. Because 1 is a root, we got a factor of x minus 1. So that's, now add them up again. And 4 minus 4 is 0. Again, 1 is the root of this depressed equation. Remember, I don't have to write out the equation. I know that's going to be equal to 0 because the remainder is 0. So this equation equals 0. So this is the quotient right here, which is your depressed equation. Bring down to 1, multiply 1, add 4, multiply 4, add 4, multiply 4. And we got a remainder of 0 because the coefficients added up to 0. So now we have, there's another x minus 1. So we have x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. And this is factorable. Let's see. X squared is quadratic, x and x. Factors of 4 to give you 4, got to be 2 and 2. Product is positive, sum is positive, so it'll be plus 2 plus 2. Multiply 2 times 2, 4. Add 4. So we get x equals negative 2. X equals negative 2. Again, they're factors. So we have an x plus 2 and another x plus 2. So if we put that together, the y, this equation up here, is made up of x plus 1, x minus 1, 1, 2, 3. And we got an x minus x plus 2 as a factor. Therefore, we have 2 of them. So that's the factored form that represents this equation. Again, if you cube this out and squared this and multiplied, you would come back to this equation. So we know that the y-intercept is negative 4. We know that an x-intercept is a root, which is 1, because it's the opposite. So we got a 1. We also know that the x-intercept or the root is negative 2, which is here. And because it's positive, it's coming down from the top. So it comes down from here, like this. And notice now, this is at 1. It's not a linear, it's a cubic. A cubic is a sideways S. It comes down, swings in, and goes sideways like that. There's the sideways S. And it goes down, and down, and down. And we got to go back up through here, so we make a bend. And add it. That's a square, so don't go through. So we've got to bounce off because it's a private double root. There's a double root at negative 2, so it bounces off. And at 1 is a 3, power of 3, so it's a sideways S. So there's your cubic, sideways S, and there's your bouncing off. So there's 5 roots. So that why we did all the solving and real roots, imaginary roots, etc., is to help us get to that stage. And if you like my video, click the like button, click the subscribe button, visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.